Here's what we're going to do tonight. Let's just get into it. I had somebody literally just like join the group. She was actually having a conversation in Jill Wiseman's, my off loom queen. She was having conversations in her group about how she was getting started with looming, and she was kind of looking for some more information. And somebody that I actually went to Prague with, one of the students, chimed in and said, "Hey, Jules is approachable. You should totally talk to her, and you should join her group." And so she did. And then I sadly woke up to a private message talking about how her loom had snapped. And so that breaks my heart every time I hear that. It just, I'm sad that that happened for you. Like it really, really, really is a bummer. And so we're always talking about like, okay, well, why did that happen? What could you have possibly done? Was it just simply a manufacturing faux pas, or was there something that perhaps you didn't know? So before we get into the Creative Soul box reveal, the Serenity for the month of October, I just thought for giggles, for good giggles, I would talk about inserting the rod into the loom. Now, what I can tell you about the metal rod is that during the manufacturing process, these two ends are bent in ever so slightly to be able to go into the holes of the jewel loom, these tiny little holes right here. Okay. So there's a whole process, and there's a whole angle and a whole concept and a method to the madness, right? Sometimes, more often in the past, there has been times when the metal rod perhaps was not bent in correctly. And so how would you know that? Well, you went to go put the metal rod into your jewel loom, and there was no match made in heaven. You know what I'm saying? Like the rod was not going into the holes, and it was really, really quite a struggle. And so, when or if that happens, then what you want to do is you want to take your flat nose, right? And ever so gently, you would just bend it back, like just by a smidge of a hair, right? You're not like, it's never so off that you're going from, this to this. So it's a very small adjustment. I've seen more of that a couple years ago. I haven't seen it so much in the last, what is this, 23? Like literally, I just have not really seen it in the last couple of years. So that is just one thing that could be wrong. And you know what? I got no problem with you taking a picture of your metal rod and texting me a photo of it and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not too sure. Can you look at this? Are you able to tell?" And I'm totally cool with that. In fact, we'll put that number up so that you know how to reach out to me, and you could just send me a photo. Make sure the rod is laying flat and that I can see, how it's, bent, and then I'll just eyeball it. I'll give it a shot. I'll do my best. That is one thing that could be wrong. The other thing, too, that I find quite often is people are not psychologically making the connection that the jewel loom is made out of a flexible plastic, not a bendable plastic, which I think is extremely important for you to remember. Flexible, not bendable, because you need to understand that when you are, bending it ever so slightly to put the rod in, it's meant to flex, not to bend. So the more you can get that into your brain, the better. Another little tidbit, and I know you're going to think this one is just like looser than a goose. But Joan, well, now it makes sense. Joan said, she's in the background going like this. Okay, what does Joan mean by that? Believe it or not, even even in California when it's cold, and in Tennessee when it's cold, or New York when it's cold, the plastic can get a little hard. And we have literally found that if we take our hands and we warm up the plastic, I know this is so crazy. And you're like, you're just trying to get us to massage our jewel looms. Maybe. It's a possibility. No, but for reals, we have actually found it to warm up and to loosen up. Even just what I did right there. It's so crazy. So just again, you might think that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but really it has helped us in all parts of the country when it's a little chilly. So keep all of that in mind, and I really think that's going to help you. Kara from Arizona is even saying excellent idea. So I do want to show you now how I put the rod, okay, into, and I'm going to stand up so you can see my belly, my barriga, as we say in Portuguese. So I have the loom, the jewel loom, and I'm going to put it on my belly, okay? And I'm going to take the rod. I'm going to put the rod into that bottom hole. And then very carefully, I'm just going to see here. Whoops, let me back up a little. You see my hand, my left hand, how I'm holding the loom. This is on my belly. And whoop, that may not be the right entrance. Oh, there we go. Perfect. See how that just snapped in? Now, if I go to take it out and it gives me any grief and it won't come out, I shift the tension. I turn my loom, and very carefully, I pop that out. Okay. So be gentle, right? I always talk about the time that I left jewelry television, and this is the God honest truth. 2013, when the loom came out, and jewelry television was the first to introduce it, and I had to catch a flight, and I literally took all of the looms in their warped, beaded on position, threw a ton of them into my suitcase that ended up getting checked. And I thought, they're done. They're done. But when I got back home and I opened up the suitcase, not a one of them was in bad shape. So I really think it has a lot to do with all the things we just talked about. And then this one that I'm going to tell you about right now. When you are warping your loom, okay? Excuse me. When you warp the loom, this is what I want you to practice. You see the belly of the jewel loom right here? Okay? And you see this, the top of the beaded piece, the warps, all right? The distance between the belly of the jewel loom, where it's warped, and the warps up here, the beading threaded warps, is 2 inches. Okay. I have seen some looms that I'm not even kidding to you. Like, again, they're trying to bend it, and the warps are so stinking tight that this is way up. And now this 2 inches from the belly to the top right here has turned into 2.5 inches. So as you can imagine, the tension, all right, on this thinner part of the jewel loom is really being stressed. So that's another thing to think about. So take this snippet of the video that we're doing right now, and we'll have to figure out perhaps how to timestamp this. Just put that into your looming brain, jot it down in your journal, whatever you need to do, and just really think about it when you're setting up your loom. Maria Velasquez is in the Jewel Loom community all the time. She is our seed bead queen. She does beautiful, beautiful work. She loves the original Jewel Loom. Like, she is dedicated to it. The Jewel Loom has some godmothers, and I'm going to tell you right now, Maria is definitely one of them. And so if you're in the Jewel Loom group and you're ever having a struggle, Joan Dice, myself, Maria, of course, Trisha and Amber are always kind of around as well. And I'm sure that if you ask a question or if you forget something, somebody will help you about that. But these little tips that I just gave you, I think they're really strong ones. And I do believe that they will help you to have, you know, a successful experience with your loom. And again, I know you're thinking like, you guys are crazy. You're just like saying that because you want to know how many people are going to actually do that. But honest to goodness, like I could even feel it with this one. All right. So now listen, by all means, if your loom does snap, okay, you need to email sales@beadalon.com. All right. Sales@beadalon.com. And you tell them that your jewel loom snapped. It doesn't matter where you bought it. You don't have to have a picture of it. You know, honesty is always good, right? I trust you. And so if your loom broke, that's who you're going to email and they're going to send one to you free of charge. All right. You tell them what happened. Jules sent you and um, they will send you a new one. So Joan just put that up on the screen here, sales@beadalon.com. They're fantastic at responding and taking care of that issue. And so, okay. So don't ever well, you have every right to get frustrated. I mean, it makes me sad and frustrated when it happens, but don't feel like you're out of your investment. Your investment is so important to us. So just take these tips, think about them, and if something happens, go bury the other one and email Beadalon. Okay. So,